Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Hard Choice. Simple steps for showing up. My name is Brad Draper. I am your host, and I am so grateful to be with you today. So, I've had this topic on my brain for quite some time. I've been thinking about how I want to relay this message to you and how I want you to internalize this message. I've got a plant. I do not have a green thumb, by the way. My wife and I, in the 11 years we've been together, we have been greatly successful at killing just about every plant that has come in our way. And it's primarily to do with we do not take the time to educate ourselves on how to properly take care of the plant. So that's our problem. That's a problem with us. That if we want to have plants in the future, we will have to remedy. So this home we're in, we bought it, we moved in March 2022. So not too far away from 3 years ago. We were gifted a plant, a money tree, from our realtor. And it was the first time, and we've used this realtor many times, and he gave us this plant. And we had never really had heard of money trees. I've kind of seen them, and I appreciated the symbolism behind it, and I appreciated his way of presenting this gift to us because it was heartfelt. It meant a lot to him. And he said, I know you guys are going places, so I wanted to give you this money tree, which is a symbol of good financial fortune. And I tried really hard to take care of that plant. I didn't want it to be like other plants. I put a lot of energy, a lot of work into that plant. And I looked up the plant and saw when its growing seasons were and where its dormant seasons were. And I tried really hard to remember to water it, to nurture it, to take care of it. Something about money trees. And after a while, we put it in, and my natural brain says put it in sunlight because plants need sunlight for all of the things to take place that plants need. They need sunlight. Well, after researching, originally I was doing this, and the plant wasn't thriving. It was mostly pretty stagnant, very few leaves, just wasn't doing so well. It wasn't sick, but it wasn't thriving. And I learned that money trees don't like direct sunlight. It kind of burns them. It makes the leaves upset. And that's one thing I've learned over the years is money trees, they're pretty fragile. They're fairly easy to grow when you comply with what they like. They don't like to move around much. They don't like direct sunlight. They don't like extreme amounts of heat. They don't like extreme amounts of humidity or too little humidity. They like very specific things. And when you follow these very specific things, they thrive. And so we were bound and determined to encourage this money tree to grow. And we kept moving it off the table whenever we had family over or a dinner. We would move it out of the way, and it got moved a lot, and it never really thrived. And then we moved into my parents' house. If you go back and listen to other episodes, you can learn why we did that. Moved to my parents' house, and it got moved with my mom's plants in the front room, which I never went to the front room. So I constantly forgot to water it. I constantly forgot to take care of it. And it really, really suffered. It lost most of its leaves. It turned pretty brown. It was really sick. And as time progressed on, we rehabilitated it a little bit. We moved into our house in Syracuse, and I just kept trying to keep this plant alive. It meant so much to us from our realtor that his faith and trust and love in us to give us a plant of such meaningful significance. I really wanted to give it a good effort and not have past experiences predict future behaviors or results. I didn't want to kill this plant. And so I researched more into the plant and learned about its behaviors and where to place it and to not really move it. And while we were living in Syracuse, it started doing pretty well. It really did. And it was turning back to health, and it was growing some leaves, but it wasn't full. It just kind of regrew the leaves that were there. They stayed pretty green, but not really dark, healthy green. They were more of a light green. And it wasn't moving forward as I wanted it to. And then we moved back to this house. And I said, I'm going to take a new resolve. We're back in this home, the home we were originally gifted this plant for. We're back in it. I have a new resolve to make this thing really thrive. And then it dawned on me, and we already knew we needed a new pot, but I was researching the kind of pot to use, and it's a pretty specific kind of pot. It does not like to sit in water. It likes water to go through it and just kind of moisten the dirt. But you can't make it too moist because then it'll cause mold and mildew for that plant. So many nuances to a money tree. And I finally got online and really did some research. Researched the size of pot based off of the age and the size of the plant and how to take the root bulb out without really playing with its roots, because it can kill the plant if you break the roots or if you really disrupt them and cause them to be in great turmoil. So I bought a new pot. I got new soil. I learned how to do all these things, and I went down the path of repotting this plant. I learned you're supposed to repot or change the soil out. So not repot it, but change the soil out about every 6 to 8 months. I learned all the nitrites and nitrates and all the nutrients within the dirt would be used up by the plant within about 6 or 8 months. I looked into what kind of fertilizer this plant used, and I bought specific fertilizer for money trees. I started talking to the plant. I actually named the plant. The plant's name is Dolla Dolla Bill Ya'll. And my sons, my 5 and 2-year-old, they dance around and say Dolla Dolla Bill Ya'll all the time. But the plant's name is Dolla Dolla Bill Ya'll. And I talked to him. It's a boy, by the way. I talked to him. And I encourage him to grow, and I give him good energy, and I give him love, and I give him grace. I'm now on a fairly rigid, habitual watering schedule, and I learned that money trees like fertilizer every 2 weeks to a very specific amount. So I weigh out the fertilizer. I water him every week, and every 2 weeks I fertilize him. And I do all these different things for the plant, and I've put him in a spot where he's on top of our piano. I don't move him outside of watering him. I used to move him every day almost. Now he doesn't move. He is right out of direct sunlight where he gets a lot of ambient light, but not direct sunlight. And wouldn't you know, he is thriving like you can't imagine. His leaves are so full, so big, so brilliant, so dark green. I want you to think about the analogy of Dolla Dolla Bill Ya'll in your life. We had little to no knowledge on this plant, but we tried to make it survive. It was surviving, but it wasn't thriving. Its environment was not optimal for it. It was optimal in the beginning, but it quickly grew out of that pot size. We needed to change its pot size 2 years ago. I finally did it after having it for over 2 years, almost 2.5 years. Its environment mattered. Its dirt quality mattered, or the quality of nutrition, food, knowledge, wisdom. What you put into your brain matters. Where it's placed. All these things pertaining to environment really played a pivotal role in this plant to thrive. Think about your life being a plant. Are you in the right environment? Do you need to be repotted and go up in a pot size? Do you need your root bulb cleaned? Do you need new soil? Do you need to be put in a new location? What allowed you to thrive in the beginning is not what allows you to thrive now. The knowledge you need to grow further is more than what you had before. When we first received the plant, it did pretty well because it was such a young plant. It was a baby. So it didn't need a whole lot. But as it grew, it needed more. It needed more nutrition. It needed fertilizer. It needed a bigger pot. It needed a new location. It does not want to move very often. I need to, we'll call it, prune the leaves frequently. When I start seeing a leaf go brown because it puts more energy into making new leaves, I got to shed these leaves off. That way it's placing all of the energy into new leaves and not energy into a leaf that's dying. Remove the dying leaves from your life. Place all the energy into the new systems, the new process, the new experiences, the new things that allow you to thrive. Look at your life like my plant, Dolla Dolla Bill Ya'll. Are you knowledgeable enough at the stage you're at, or are you operating on an old program? You probably need some updates to your program. You need to pay attention what nutrition you are putting into your mind, into your body, into your heart, into your soul. What kind of energy are you around? Are you around positive, uplifting energy? Remember, I speak to my plant verbally. I pour energy into my plant physically. I take care of my plant, and guess what? He's thriving in a magnificent way. It is almost every day I sit and I look at this money tree and I say, man, look at Dolla Dolla Bill Ya'll. He's doing so well. He's thriving. He's strong. He's brilliant. He's full. He's everything he needs to be and more, and growing. And pretty soon I'm going to have to get a bigger pot. I'll have to step up a pot size. I've got to change his soil out every 6 to 8 months. He is on a proper watering sequence. He is on a proper nutrition sequence with fertilizer. All the things needed to thrive, he's receiving and he's thriving. Ta-da, magic. The same thing goes in your life. What kind of environment are you in? Are you pouring good energy into your life, or are you surrounded by negativity? Are you surrounded by the voices that tear you down and keep you where you used to be? Or are you around all the voices and energy that are taking you to where you're trying to go? It is amazing what happens in your life when you just do the things you know you need to do. I knew I needed a new pot. I knew I needed new soil. I knew I needed fertilizer, but I didn't know the pot size, I didn't know the soil type, and I didn't know the fertilizer type. All it took was about an hour of research to figure it out. It took me 2 years to do that hour of research, to the point that I was about to lose the plant. How long do we wait to acquire the knowledge to move forward? It's not much time to acquire the knowledge in the scheme of things. It might take you a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple months, but in the scheme of your life, that is a very short amount of time. These money trees, when properly taken care of, can get to 4, 5, 6 feet tall. They can become huge, whereas they start with this little tiny sapling. All that comes because of environment. You will grow to the size of your environment. Are you in a growth-oriented environment, or are you in a death-oriented environment on a slow decay to nothingness? I promise you, if I did not change the pot and change the soil, I would have lost the plant. Guaranteed. And I was not far away from losing the plant. But I changed everything. Changed it all. And because of that, I have a beautiful, brilliant plant in my front room that I look at every day. And I ponder about this plant every day. I ponder how I can make it grow bigger. And then I ponder how that plant and my life are very, very similar stories. That is what I have for you. Think about those things in your life. Your Dolla Dolla Bill Ya'll. That name cracks me up every time. It makes me chuckle. And that's why I named it that, because it makes me chuckle. My sons thinks it's funny. My wife thinks I'm a dork. And that's okay. Doing dorky things is okay. Leave me a review. Apple, Spotify, wherever. Leave me a comment. Reach out. Say hi. You can find me on socials, Mr. Brad Draper. Like this thing. Subscribe to it. Download it for future listenings. Until next week, I love you guys. Bye.